Do you ever feel like a detective trying to piece together why your child just had a total meltdown over something that made no sense? Well, rest assured, you're not alone. Maybe it's the wrong pajamas, a sudden change to your day, or even the way a sibling smelled at breakfast. But whatever it is, it feels like you missed the memo on what set them off. Here's the thing. These emotional outbursts always have a root cause, even when it's not obvious. And the good news, once you start seeing the pattern, you can't unsee it. In fact, you can begin preventing these moments before they spiral out of control. In today's episode, we're diving into the 3 most common, often hidden triggers behind your child's emotional outbursts and what you can do to help them and yourself through it. Let's dive in. Welcome to Calm Connection Parenting, where we buckle up for the emotional roller coaster of raising intense and highly sensitive kids and discover some amazing things along the way. I'm your host, Jamie Kirkbride, a mom of 7, parenting coach, professional counselor, and your guide through the wild world of meltdowns, challenging behaviors, and big emotions. If you're exhausted and overwhelmed, feeling like you're always one step away from chaos, searching for a little calm in your day, then you're in the right place. Here, you'll find practical tools and faith-based strategies to transform your family. Together, we'll laugh, we'll learn, and we'll figure out how to turn those messy meltdowns into moments of connection. Let's jump in. You may be wondering, why do kids have intense emotional reactions? If you're parenting an emotionally intense child, you've probably experienced moments where their reactions seem completely out of proportion to the situation, maybe out of range for their age, or just totally beyond reason. Maybe they break down in tears over a small change in plans, scream because their sibling got to the car first, or completely lose it when you simply tell them no. It's easy to assume they're just being difficult, defiant, or even disrespectful. But here is what I want you to hear. These outbursts don't happen randomly. Your child isn't doing this to be manipulative or dramatic, and there's always a reason, even when it doesn't seem so obvious. Many of the big emotional moments that catch you off guard aren't the situation itself. They're about how your child experiences that moment internally. And that's important for us to realize as parents. There is so much more to the situation than meets the eye. But it's important for us to slow down for a minute and make sure that you understand the difference between tantrums and meltdowns. One of the biggest frustrations I hear from parents is, I don't understand why my child reacts this way. So to help, let's quickly break down the difference between tantrums and meltdowns, because understanding them is necessary and it will change how you choose to respond. Tantrums are typically goal-driven behavior. In other words, a child wants something, doesn't get it, and then protests. They often have control over their behavior and may stop if or when you give them what they want. Meltdowns or outbursts are typically an emotional overload. A child's brain gets overwhelmed by sensory input, frustration, anxiety, unexpected change, and their ability to regulate disappears. In other words, it stops. Their ability to be reasonable or even rational is truly gone. A tantrum is usually your child testing limits. A meltdown is your child losing control, truly losing control. And for emotionally intense kids, their ability to handle frustration, disappointment, or unexpected change is much lower than it is for their peers. That's why things that seem small to us can feel massive to them. Their tolerance threshold threshold is much lower due to their unique wiring. So let me give you a real-life example. This is from our life. We call it the restaurant meltdown. And let me take you back to this day when I experienced firsthand in a way I'll never forget. We were at a restaurant, a completely normal place to the rest of our family, but to our child, it was an overwhelming sensory nightmare. There were taxidermy animals mounted on the walls. To us, just decorations, but to him, they felt dirty, scary, unwelcome, and overwhelming. The lighting was dim, casting shadows, which to us just made it cooler on a hot day. But his brain couldn't process what was real or safe. There were rock walls and low ceilings in some places, and some jagged rocks that kind of jutted out in some areas, rather than typical square walls that were smooth. This, of course, added to the shadows and cave-like feeling in some areas. The restaurant was noisy. To the rest of us, we just kind of expected it. After all, they were noises that seemed to fit the environment. Plates clinking, people talking, the kitchen not too far from our table, and someone was watching a track race on their phone at the table because it was state track and we were watching somebody compete. His nervous system, however, was on overdrive. At first, everything seemed fine until suddenly he was melting down at the table. He wouldn't eat what he had been excited to order. He wouldn't answer our questions of what was wrong. He just grumbled, yelled at his brother, and acted angry. He honestly looked like he was about to explode. And unfortunately, I knew we were a long ways away from the bathroom to try to just inconspicuously sneak him off to a quiet place to settle down. And adding to the plight, it wasn't going to be a straight shot walk to get there either. We would have to go up, around, near some taxidermy animals, and down some stairs. And I remember sitting there thinking, what is going on? But looking back, I can see it clearly now. His brain was overloaded with sensory input. He didn't have the tools to communicate the things that were causing his discomfort. And his nervous system responded by going into meltdown mode. At first, it was shut down, but at the slightest of pushes, just a simple question, a reminder, a suggestion, or the slightest touch or rub from a sibling, it would all explode. That moment completely changed how I saw emotional meltdowns. It wasn't bad behavior, but it was a neurological response to feeling completely overwhelmed. We didn't just learn to handle emotional outbursts or meltdowns differently, but we actually learned to handle our whole eating out experiences differently. It changed the way we did it. Now, this is why it's helpful to understand the science behind emotional triggers. Here's what's happening when your child is triggered into an emotional outburst. Their brain works overtime to try and process all the sensory and environmental messages that are coming in, and it simply can't make sense of it all. Their brain shifts into survival mode. Remember, the fight, flight, or freeze response kicks in. Their logical brain shuts down, which means reasoning, calming words, or telling them just stop won't work. Their emotions take over. The frustration, fear, anger, or overwhelm spills out of them before they can even process it or control it. That's why recognizing triggers early is so important. It allows you as a parent to intervene before your child reaches that point of no return. So now let's talk about 3 of the most common hidden triggers that lead to emotional outbursts. Because let me tell you this, once you understand these, you can start preventing meltdowns before they even start. Let's break these down one by one, because I promise you, once you see them, You won't be able to unsee them. Now that we understand why emotional outbursts happen, I want us to talk about these 3 common hidden triggers that tend to set highly emotional kids off. These are the patterns that we see again and again in emotionally intense kids. And I promise you, when you begin recognizing them, you can intervene and be effective in stopping those meltdowns. Better yet, you will know how to plan preventatively, which can make daily life and even going out to do things like eating at restaurants a whole lot easier. Trigger number 1, sensory overload. What does it look like? Sensory overload happens when too much information or stimuli is coming at your child at once, and their brain simply cannot process it all fast enough. It might include loud noises, crowded spaces, sirens, shouting, flushing toilets, music. It might be bright or flickering lights in grocery stores, the classroom, at restaurants, and a common one, gymnasiums. Uncomfortable textures like clothing tags, certain fabrics, sticky hands, rough surfaces, or something as simple as being outside on grass. It might be strong smells or tastes, food textures, perfumes, cleaning products, siblings sitting next to them at the table, or a new, uncommon smell. It might even be dinner cooking. Another one is crowds in chaotic environments, like family gatherings, school hallways, birthday parties, school parties, assemblies, church activities, sporting events. For some kids, it might just be one of these things that sends them over the edge. But for many emotionally intense kids, it's a combination that pushes them into this full meltdown mode. Imagine you're walking into the grocery store with your child. Seems like a normal errand to you, but to them, it might be a sensory nightmare. The fluorescent lights are buzzing, the freezer section is too cold, the store music is playing music they don't enjoy in the background, while the cashier scanners keep beeping loudly. There are so many people talking at once, carts rolling, and smells from the bakery and seafood section mixing together. Suddenly, your child shuts down or melts down, crying, covering their ears, maybe repeatedly asking for something or refusing to move, or possibly exploding when you say no to the only thing they see that they really like. You guessed it, the candy bar that's right at their eye level. Now, to an outsider, they just might see a difficult child throwing a fit. But what's really happening is a nervous system in overload. What to say and do instead? Well, notice your child's warning signs early. The fidgeting, the talking loudly, covering ears, complaining about things like the lights and sounds, getting agitated or easily irritated. You could help them exit the situation, step outside or find a quieter aisle, or maybe even a break in the restroom, somewhere where there's lower stimulation. You could prepare them ahead of time, talk about what to expect, and create a simple sensory plan. We'll go in, grab 3 things, and be out in 10 minutes. But let me warn you, it will be imperative that you keep to the plan, or that too could cause a problem. Better yet, ask your child if he would rather wait in the car with another adult, maybe stay home and not go to the store, or do an order ahead of time and then pick it up. This is the key takeaway with trigger 1. Your child's outburst isn't about misbehavior. It's a response to an overwhelming environment and sensory information. I'm going to be back to share trigger 2 and 3 with you, but first, I'd like to share this. Are your child's emotions and challenging behaviors pushing you to the edge? You're not alone. From constant struggles to emotional outbursts, it's easy to feel like you're just one step away from chaos. But what if I told you there's a better way? In the Calm Connection program, you'll get access to a video course workbooks, and a supportive community to learn practical, faith-based strategies for handling even the toughest of behaviors. But the best part, you get weekly coaching calls with me, where we can explore your child or family's specific struggles and work together for some solutions. If you're tired of trying methods that just don't work, or you feel like you don't have time to add one more thing to your plate, don't worry. This program was designed to fit into a busy parent's life and give you real solutions with some quick wins too. Ready to take the first step toward a calmer home? Visit calmconnectionparent.com and learn more about the Calm Connection coaching program. You've got this, and I'm here to support you. Trigger number 2. Lack of control and unexpected changes. What does this look like? Well, emotionally intense kids crave predictability. For many of them, their inner worlds, thoughts, feelings, perceptions, and those big emotions feel so out of control that they really want to feel something that can be controlled. They thrive when they know what will happen, what they will do, where they will go, and what to expect. So when something shifts unexpectedly, their brain panics. Common situations that can trigger emotional outbursts: maybe you change the plan for the day, not going to go to the park anymore, or this is going to take 5 more minutes. Maybe it's interrupting an activity that they really enjoy, like stopping screen time or leaving the play place. Not being allowed to make choices. Maybe they're forced to wear something they don't like, or they're not getting to choose the restaurant or activity. It may be transitions, leaving for school, moving to a new classroom, going outside to play, or coming in from playing. And in another element that only compounds these common situations, making them even tougher, is when they feel any sense of urgency. Plans change suddenly when they have to stop abruptly, or feeling rushed in a transition. To your emotionally intense child, these situations feel like a loss of control. And when they feel powerless or out of control, their emotions come flooding out in big and often uncontrollable ways. This is an example. Your child is happily playing their favorite game on the computer. You glance at the clock, time for homework. So you walk over and you say, "All right, time to get off." Meltdown. There's crying. There's refusal to move and aggression. Why? Because from their perspective, they weren't done. Their brain was still locked into the game. And suddenly, it's ripped away with no transition. What to say and do instead? Well, first of all, validate. I know you're having fun and you don't want to stop. You might set a boundary, make it visual, and give a heads up. You have 10 more minutes on the timer here. Then it's time for homework. You might use a medium preference activity if the shift is so big, so that you can bridge that gap with something more neutral. First, we'll grab a snack, then homework. And bonus if that snack is a protein snack. This is the key takeaway. Transitions feel less overwhelming when kids feel prepared and have a sense of control. Trigger number 3, the unexpected. Here's what it looks like. For many emotionally intense kids, the unexpected feels very threatening, even when it's something small. It can be going somewhere new without warning, or a picture in their mind of what it's going to be like, not knowing what's happening next and what it might mean for them. Hearing an unexpected comment, like praise for a sibling or being asked to do something. It might be sudden changes in how someone responds to them. And because of being highly sensitive, these kids might think something small or even unrelated means something negative when it doesn't. In fact, many kids who are emotionally intense, and oftentimes those diagnosed with ADHD or DMDD, may have rejection-sensitive dysphoria, and they struggle especially with those unexpected words and reactions, fearing, of course, that it is some sort of rejection directed at them. Here's a real-life example. The power of giving a heads up. I remember hearing a psychologist talk about this with his own child. He noticed that when he praised one child in front of another, his older child would immediately shut down or begin acting out. Why? Because the unexpected praise felt like rejection toward him. So he started doing something very simple. Before praising one child, he'd give the other a heads up. Hey, you know what? Your sister got an award at school today, and I'm going to tell her she did a good job. But I just want you to know I saw how hard you worked on your chores today, and I'm really proud of you too. And you know what happens as this dad started doing it, and as you might notice if you start doing this, there are fewer emotional outbursts and less disruption of your connection. So what can we say and do instead? Well, prepare them for changes ahead of time. Tomorrow we're going somewhere new. Let's talk about what to expect. This is the restaurant we're going to eat at. Would you like to see a picture online? Would you like to check out their menu? What do you think you'll order when we go there? Acknowledge when something unexpected happens. Hey, you know what? I know this isn't what you thought would happen today. I know when things change, it can feel really frustrating. Give them emotional safety around unexpected moments. I can see that this isn't what you thought was going to happen. It's okay to feel upset, and I'm here to help. In fact, that was one of the things we started doing when going out to eat. If it was somewhere new, we would get online, find pictures of the restaurant, look at the menu, and even let him pick out what he was going to order. This small step of preparation proved very beneficial. Time on the car ride to mentally and emotionally prepare usually allowed us to have no meltdowns while we were eating. So the key takeaway, the unexpected doesn't have to feel scary, overwhelming, or out of control when kids can feel emotionally prepared. I'd like to share this. Are you tired of parenting feeling like a game of who's going to melt down first? Well, let's change the game. With the Parenting with Personality app, you'll know exactly how to approach your child's unique needs and emotional triggers. Say goodbye to stressful standoffs and hello to peaceful, fun-filled days. Parenting doesn't have to be a battle. It can be a joy. Download the Parenting with Personality app on Apple Store or Google Play today to discover strategies and stress-free ways to connect with your child. It's like parenting help in the palm of your hand. It is so true. You know, now that we've covered the 3 most common hidden triggers behind emotional outbursts, I want to encourage you to think about how you can handle these moments in real life. What to say, what to do, and how to help your child through it without losing your mind. Because here's the truth. You can't always control the triggers, and you can't usually control your child, but you can control how you respond. And when you shift how you approach these situations, you really will start to see fewer outbursts and more moments of connection. So quick review of those triggers. Trigger number 1, being told no. What's really happening? Your child isn't just upset about not getting their way. They're struggling with inflexible thinking. Their brain is still locked on what they wanted. And when they hear a quick, firm no, they have nowhere to go but to frustration or anger. So remember how important it is to process that disappointment. This helps them move on so they don't get stuck. Avoiding those hard no's with no explanation, like no because I said so, or reacting with frustration, you never take no for an answer, or engaging in that power struggle, I already said no, stop asking. But remembering to pause and ask yourself, is there any way this no might be a yes later? Validate and redirect. Let them know you understand and there might be a better time. Offer them that sense of control, options within boundaries. So shifting from a hard no to a structured alternative can help reduce frustration and outbursts. Trigger number 2 was transitions, moving from one activity to another, one setting to another. And remember what's really happening. Your child isn't trying to be defiant. They're deeply engaged in what they're doing. And when they're pulled out of it suddenly, it feels like an abrupt loss of control. Their brain wasn't prepared for the shift, and when it happens too quickly, they react with resistance, frustration, or an outburst. Remember, don't give those sudden commands. Time's up, get off now. Don't dismiss their feelings. Oh, stop being dramatic. It's just homework. And don't threaten consequences. If you don't listen, you'll lose screen time tomorrow. That might just be the trigger for the huge eruption. But instead, validate that they're enjoying what they're doing. Give them ample warning for the switch that's about to happen. And remember, use that medium preference bridge for something that they may enjoy as they shift, like the snack. And I encourage you, even use a transition cue. Visual timers are great for this. Key takeaway, giving advance notice and a sense of control makes transitions smoother and less overwhelming. Trigger 3 was the unexpected. When your child struggles with changes, surprises, or even unexpected comments. What's really happening? Emotionally intense kids rely on predictability to feel safe. So when something unexpected happens, change of plans, shift in routine, those comments they weren't prepared for, it throws them into an emotional spiral. Their brain wasn't expecting it, and now they're struggling to process the different emotions in real time. What we don't want to do is spring those changes on them suddenly, or brush off their reaction, or ignore their emotional overwhelm. Instead, we want to give them heads up whenever possible. We want to acknowledge their feelings and provide a sense of security. The key takeaway, helping kids expect what's coming reduces emotional overwhelm and anxiety. Now that we've covered the most common triggers, oftentimes the biggest triggers, and how to handle them, here are the key points I want you to remember. In fact, you might even want to write these down on a little index card and keep them handy. Your child isn't trying to be difficult. These outbursts are their way of communicating a struggle. You don't have to say yes to everything, but how you say no makes a huge difference. Transitions don't have to be a battle. Giving warnings and small supports will make it easier. And the unexpected doesn't have to feel scary. When kids know what's coming, they will feel more in control. Now, if today's episode gave you an aha moment, I'd love to hear from you. Screenshot this episode and tag me on social media, or just send me a message and let me know what resonated most with you. And if you're looking for more personalized help navigating your child's emotions and implementing some of these tools and skills we've discussed here, I encourage you to check out the Calm Connection Parent Coaching Program, where we dive deeper into strategies that actually work for your uniquely wired child. And you can visit parentingwithpersonality.com to learn more about that program. Remember, you're not alone, and your child isn't broken. He isn't giving you a hard time. He's simply having a hard time. His emotions and his behaviors are inviting you into an interaction. You are the one that controls if that can be a positive one. With the right support, you can create more calm, connection, and confidence in your parenting journey. Well, that's it for today, but the journey to calm parenting doesn't stop here. If you are nodding in agreement, laughing, or maybe even crying, don't worry, we've all been there. Make sure to share this podcast with a friend who might need it too. Don't forget to connect with us at parentingwithpersonality.com or join our Parenting with Personality Facebook group. I'd love to support you there. And until next time, you've got this. Just keep calm and parent on.